If you are wanting the video about Yasuke, the African samurai, the link for that video is in the description below. Warning: we will be talking about the anime show in depth. A spoiler alert is now in effect. Hello and welcome back to the Sengoku Archives. My name is Sean, and today we're going to look at the anime Yasuke. The anime came to Netflix on April 29th, 2021, and it consists of 6 episodes, each of them being about 30 minutes in length. It is rated TVMA for violence, suicide, and gore, so needless to say, viewer discretion is advised. It is historical fantasy with more emphasis on the fantasy aspect, with Gundam suits, transformations, and magic. The story surrounds a legendary African samurai, Yasuke, who lives a quiet life as a boatsman 20 years after the Honnoji incident. He is brought back to the warrior life when a young girl with magical powers named Saki needs his protection. For the anime reviews done on this channel, I will not be looking at the artwork, animation, and execution to an extent. Many people have already covered that. Instead, for this channel, I will go about my anime reviews in one of 2 ways. If the anime is more historical in nature, I'll look how closely it follows history. If the anime is loosely based off history, much like this one, I'll look for the historical Easter eggs that would go over casual viewers' heads. Starting with Yasuke, I feel like they did him justice in the anime series. While we do not have a lot on Yasuke to begin with, it did give the creators more freedom with the character. Every fact we have about Yasuke has been portrayed in the anime, starting with his introduction. While Oda Nobunaga and Yasuke did not meet in a port in 1579, they did meet, and Nobunaga did have him washed. The reasons for the washing in the anime are a little different than history, however it is a part of Yasuke's quote-unquote origin story that goes back to the Jesuit records of their meeting. During their meeting in the anime, Nobunaga asks Yasuke his name, to which he responds, Izubio Ibrahimo Baloi. This confuses Nobunaga and most likely anyone else watching the anime. But the merchant steps in to apologize for Yasuke, saying that the Yao people are very proud. This is pretty significant. While I cannot find anything on the name that Yasuke gives Nobunaga when they first meet, the nod to him being a Yao is noteworthy. It has been theorized by historians that he could have been a Yao, a people that resided in what is now Mozambique. This would also explain his name, which is believed to be a combination of Yao and the popular Japanese male suffix "ske." Later on, Yasuke is seen trying to help Nobunaga take over the Iga clan, which resulted in the Tensho-Iga War in 1581. While there are no records indicating that Yasuke was there, it is interesting to know. Instead of going for the Battle of Temakusan, the last battle against the Takeda clan in 1582 that many claim Yasuke fought at, the creators of the anime go for one of the bloodiest campaigns in Nobunaga's quest for power. My only problem with the Iga campaign is that they keep saying that the leader of the Iga clan is Hattori Hanzo. While it is true that Hattori Hanzo was from the Iga clan, he was actually an ally, considering that Hanzo served Tokugawa Ieyasu, an ally of Nobunaga's since after the Battle of Okehazama in 1560. The actual leader of the Iga clan was Momochi Sandayu, also known as Momochi Tamba. I know this is a small detail, but as someone who knows the history of this era, it was just hard to overlook. Lastly, of course, Yasuke is known for being present at the Honnoji incident, and the anime does not disappoint. I feel like the book African Samurai by Thomas Lockley and Jeffrey Gerard was used as inspiration for the opening scene at Honnoji, for the book opens in a similar fashion. In the anime, it is only Nobunaga and Yasuke at the temple, locked within the inner room. Yasuke believes that they could still win, but Nobunaga knows that he has been beaten, and asks Yasuke to be his second, an act that haunts him for the rest of his life. Later on in the anime, it is revealed what happened to Yasuke after Honnoji. When Yasuke and Sake meet with Morisuke, a man that once fought alongside Yasuke years ago, he recalls that he remembers hearing Yasuke fighting alongside Oda Nobutada after Nobunaga's death, but was defeated. From there, Yasuke was captured by Akechi Mitsuhide's men and was returned to the Jesuits. Yasuke ended up escaping later on. This is partly true. Yasuke was not with Nobunaga at Honnoji, but rather at Nijo Castle with Nobunaga's son, Nobutada. Yasuke fought alongside Nobutada until he committed seppuku. Mitsuhide spared Yasuke's life and turned him over to the Jesuits. Historically from there, we don't know much else about Yasuke. This is where I also believe that African samurai continue to serve as inspiration for the rest of the anime, because the latter half of the book talks about other possible records for Yasuke after the Honnoji incident. Moving on to the members of the Oda Clan, I always find it interesting to see how the figures of the Sengoku Jidai are viewed outside my little bubble of samurai warriors and Sengoku Basara. Once you see them a certain way for so long, it's hard to see them portrayed differently. Nevertheless, Yasuke delivers well when it comes to Oda Nobunaga, Mori Ranmaru, and Akechi Mitsuhide. Starting with Nobunaga, we see a man who's trying to bring about a new, stronger, and better Japan. This seems more like a realistic approach than the man everyone knows as the Demon King. The creators of the anime really focused on Nobunaga's love for foreign things, attire, drink, and of course, his interest in Yasuke. He comes across as a revolutionary man, for he is accused of abandoning tradition, having servants be equals, and welcoming to foreigners. It's possible that Japan under Nobunaga would have looked a lot different than it did under Tokugawa Ieyasu, but we will never know. It is interesting to see the small details about Nobunaga as well, such as his like of wine, and even a golden skull goblet, referencing the time Nobunaga took the skulls of his brother-in-law, Azai Nagamasa, and his allies, and turned their skulls into sake cups. Azai Nagamasa betrayed Nobunaga when he attacked the Asakura clan, a longtime ally of the Azai. He would be defeated alongside the Asakura clan at the siege of Odani Castle in 1573. Then there is Nobunaga's relationship with Mori Ranmaru. While he has a small part in this anime, Mori Ranmaru stood out to me the most. I know legends speak of this young page's beauty, but they took that legend and ran with it. His hair frames his face, eyes are dreamy, and his face is pure. The anime also makes a nod to the homosexual relationship Ranmaru and Nobunaga had with one another. The type of relationship was more of a master-apprentice relationship that, if the boy agreed, could turn sexual, but only continued until the boy reached adulthood. Stories about Nobunaga and Ranmaru's relationship began to surface more in the Edo period, and has been depicted more of a romance in pop culture. Yasuke acknowledges this, and drops some not-so-subtle hints, such as Nobunaga taking Ranmaru by the hand and leading him to another room. I don't think I need to explain that one. Then there is the Honnoji incident. Nobunaga asks Yasuke if Ranmaru was safe, to which he replies that they managed to sneak him out back and put him on a boat. This struck me as odd, for historically it has been said that Ranmaru perished at Honnoji, either dying to protect his lord or committing seppuku after assisting his lord with suicide. After going further into the anime and seeing the type of relationship they were going for, perhaps it was Nobunaga's last act of love for the boy. It's just a theory, but it seems credible. Then there is Akechi Mitsuhide. It took me a good minute to figure out which one he was, for the anime does not really introduce you to people in a typical fashion. You can go for episodes not knowing who they are. After figuring out who he was, though, we begin to see his personality come out. Needless to say, Mitsuhide is a traditionalist who is also a racist and a misogynist. He keeps telling Yasuke throughout the series that he will always be a servant, and that the Oda Clan is losing respect from other daimyo because Nobunaga is welcoming of foreigners and women into his ranks. More on the women here in a second. We find out later that Akechi Mitsuhide is the Dark General, and he gets angry when Yasuke manages to outsmart him on the battlefield. We also learn that Mitsuhide betrayed Nobunaga because he was too welcoming of people like Yasuke. Mitsuhide comes across as a very dislikable figure due to his bigoted outlook on life. Instead of seeing the gifts that Yasuke brings to the table, he proceeds to belittle him, mainly out of jealousy. Considering how proud of a man Mitsuhide was, on top of the no remarks he has made about Yasuke, I feel like this was a decent representation, especially in light of the anime. While we do not know Mitsuhide's true reasons for betrayal, and in other pop culture references he comes across as more sympathetic, I feel like in the context of the anime, Mitsuhide's representation was perfect. Touching back on the women in the anime, we are introduced to an Onobu geisha named Natsumaru. While I was focused on who she might have been based off of, either Io Naotora because of the red armor, or since she had ties to Iga clan, maybe Mochizuki Chiyome, one question came into my head. Why are they acting like female warriors are such an uncommon thing? Women, especially women of higher classes like the samurai, were trained to fight and defend themselves in case of an attack on their household. In most cases, the men were away at battle, so if their castles were attacked, it was up to the women to defend them. Some women even became heads of their clan, the most notable figures being Io Naotora and Tachibana Ginchio. While it's nice to see that the Onobu geisha are getting more representation in pop culture, I feel like Natsumaru was constantly being downplayed. Women fought during the Sengoku Jidai, and was not as uncommon as the anime made it out to be. One thing that bothered me a bit was the typical trope of Catholic priests having a dark side. It has gotten to the point in pop culture now that every time a Catholic priest is on screen, they usually have some skeletons in their closet. Yasuke is no different. One of the first enemies Yasuke comes across in the anime is Father Abraham, a missionary, most likely a Jesuit, who had been searching Japan for a child who has special powers to take back to Europe with him, so that he can train them and use their powers on behalf of the Catholic Church. We find out later that he has similar powers himself, and he has no problems using violence or even killing people in God's name. I felt like this was too obvious considering how overplayed this trope is, and maybe he was thrown in to establish the Christian presence in Japan during this time, but it just seemed too predictable and overused, and I think they would have been much better off introducing us to the main bad guy, the Damio, a lot sooner. The Damio is more formally introduced to us in the latter half of the anime. This kind of confused me at first, but I thought it was just the name they were going to use for Tokugawa Ieyasu, who at this point was the most powerful man in Japan, which would have been 1602, just 1 year away from him taking the title of shogun. The Damio is a woman though, and we do not learn her true identity until the end of the anime. She's actually Hojo Masako, and while she is an actual Japanese figure, she is not from the Sengoku era. Hojo Masako was the wife of Japan's first shogun, Minamoto no Yoritomo, and is also known as the Nun Shogun. She helped bring the Hojo clan from a small clan in Izu to regents to the shogun. She was an extremely influential woman, who was known for attacking her husband's many lovers, and she was known to be ruthless, ambitious, and even a very successful leader. Her efforts threw the Hojo into power, which can be seen in the anime. I'm not too sure why they picked her to be the Damio, especially since the events in the anime take place nearly 400 years after her death. Her influence could be the culprit, for rumors began to spring up about 500 years later that she was the one who killed her husband out of jealousy by detaching her spirit and haunting him to his death. Perhaps when more comes out about the anime, we might get some more behind-the-scenes information on their inspiration for things. There's one last Easter egg for us nerds at the very, very end of the anime. After the ending credits in the last episode, we find a man standing in front of Natsumaru's grave. Yasuke comes up beside him, and the man instantly remembers him. Yasuke is the man that saved him from Ota Jiuichi while they were at the Nanban trade port. I'm not gonna lie, my mouth fell open at this one. This was definitely for us history buffs out there, since most people watching this would not know who he is. If you remember from my previous episode, Ota Jiuichi was a man who served under Oda Nobunaga as a historian. He penned the famous Shincho Koki, also known as the Chronicle of Lord Nobunaga, to English readers. There is very little information on him out there because he was the one literally writing history. He is also significant because it is because of him that we have documentation about Yasuke. This first meeting between the two is documented in his account, and it is the one that most historians use today to confirm Yasuke's existence. It was an unexpected shout-out, but it was also well-deserved, and it shows me that the creators did some significant research while making this anime. If you have 3 hours to kill and you want to have a fun time, go and watch this anime. Yasuke is a beautiful anime with a trippy opening sequence and one of the best soundtracks an anime has had in recent years. While sometimes it can leave you asking, who is that and what's going on, it does tie everything together at the end with a little bit of mystery to keep you guessing. Will it lead to a second season? I'm not sure at this point, but it is welcome to see what they do with Yasuke in the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you want a written version of this review, the link is in the description below. Please like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest videos. I'll see you all next time!